Hi, everybody. This is 1,118 days since Richard vanished from the barracks on an unsecured, it should be very secure, at Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas, military installation. Um, I believe it's the largest in land mass in the United States Army, and it's right there on the border. It's supposed to be extremely secure, but it's not. Richard disappeared from the barracks there at Fort Bliss. That means that our soldiers are in danger, and the fraud perpetrated by so many leaders that say they care about our soldiers' safety is fraud, waste, and abuse at the highest level. I think it's betrayal at the highest level. And we have the the words of Thomas Kane, the DES, that's the Department of Emergency Services, and the chief of security of Fort Bliss. That was who he was for over 15 years. And he said the command on Fort Bliss is operating outside of the law. Um, the command on Fort Bliss is operating outside of the law. And this is a national security threat. It is putting all of our service members and their families and the community in danger. And so and why is that important in Richard's case? Because it was this kind of criminal syndicate, this operating outside of the law, outside of standard operating procedures and regulations of the military, the failure of IG, the Inspector General, the failure of CID and its leadership, the failure of the DES and the Chief of Security of Fort Bliss, that was Thomas Kane until just a few weeks ago, and now it is Patrick Dyer. It's a failure of vetting those that work on Fort Bliss. We have allegations, not my allegations. These are not my allegations. These are allegations. Hold on, it's down here. Oh, allegations, piles of allegations. Well, there is a couple of pictures from my grandkids here. Um, but most of it is all allegations, except for there's this really strange letter, like a character letter, to whom it may concern. It concerns Team Find Richard Halliday. Oh my gosh, I have so much here. But this confirms that the vetting is not taking place. When you have, and listen to this, we have a series of charges that produced restraints, okay? Restraining orders against the Hart family or against Leilani. Even like this first one is even the family is trying to restrain Leilani for domestic abuse. We have the five members of the family. We have the date. We have the police number, the report number. We have the charge, domestic abuse against Leilani Hart. Let's see. Make sure I'm on. Make sure I'm on. When I hear that many dings. Can you not hear me? Let's see. I always should do this. Okay. Hmm. Let's see what's happening. Something is happening. Okay. I can't log on to my Facebook for some reason. There it goes. Okay. Here I am. Here I am. Okay. Turn this down. I can see. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming on and being patient. But this is just breaking news again. We have breaking news because yesterday I told you about another police. What this means, and okay, so we have. I'll go through them. What we have today, we have charges of domestic abuse. Then we have another one, and these are from Hawaii. Okay, yesterday was from El Paso Police Department. We have more. This is from Hawaii, and there were a domestic abuse charge, a harassment charge, a harassment charge, a harassment charge. Okay, 3 year restraining order, 3 year restraining order, temporary restraining order. Okay, for harassment, we have the names, we have the numbers, we have the dates, right? We have the dates, we have the numbers, we have the people, the names. And this last one is interesting because it's a restraining order to restrain Leilani James and one of their children. So that's a 3 year restraining order, right? For harassment. So I put up what would be the harassment in Hawaii. So I'm there now. I can see it. Maybe I should. Should I turn this on? I think I can. Display. Go here. Yep. Okay, good. Okay, so if you go to the Facebook, you'll see it. And it says that a person commits the offense of harassment if, with intent to harass, annoy, or alarm another person, the person strikes, shoves, kicks, or otherwise touches a person in a way that is offensive and provocative, makes repeated telephone calls, facsimile transmissions, or any form of electronic communication that is intended to harass, annoy, or alarm the other person, makes a comment, request, suggestion, or proposal that is obscene, communicates to the other person by any means, including electronic communication, a threat to inflict physical harm on the person or any other person, or repeatedly insults, taunts, or challenges another person in a manner likely to provoke an immediate violent response or that would cause the other person to reasonably believe that the actor intends to cause bodily injury to the recipient or another or damage to the recipient's property. So, this is their history. This is their history. And I will tell you, we have been harassed. We have been victims of this. I think Richard was victims of this. Okay? And we have several people here that were, because this last one was a bunch of witnesses this was a group of people, and absolutely, it is important. And I don't want to bring it up, but we're getting somewhere now, y'all. We're getting somewhere. And we're getting names. This is just the tip of the iceberg. It's flowing in. The information is flowing in so fast. And I want everyone to know that what to help understand why we're doing what we're doing. And that is because Leilani Hart with James Hart, with KTEP, with Miss Kacherga, with the attorney, right? And we know who the attorney is. We know who his sister is. We know the connections with his sister. Okay. Um, we know his connections with other cases. And with them together, they orchestrated obstruction of justice in our son's case. Okay. And part of that obstruction of justice was to launch a smear campaign on a key witness for Richard's case, to make his testimony not have credibility. That's what they wanted. And to try to restrain him. And they did that. They were successful by colluding on Fort Bliss with the JAG to misrepresent the information with the okay of Thomas Kane now, to misrepresent the information to the commanding general to ban our key witness from Fort Bliss. And I hope that makes sense. So that's why this is important, because we need to get answers. Our key witness is an officer of the court that can get answers. He also is very credible, and they were trying to get his testimony from what he witnessed, what he heard, what is in his CID complaint, his FBI complaint, his command complaint, his AG complaint. He sent it to everybody about what he saw and heard from Leilani Hart and Tavita Nusa, how they tampered with Richard's file, how they how video surveillance footage was tampered with, how it's missing, and how the confession that bodily harm was done to Richard. Okay, and there's more to it. That's just the main gist that we want out there, for people to understand that he has a very close experience with the suspects, and that Richard, and I've already told everyone that somehow Van Buren Avenue plays a part in this. Okay, it plays a big part in this, and that our key witness knows some things and needs to get on Fort Bliss, but they wanted to make his testimony to shut him up. They wanted him to shut him up, take away his credibility, and ban him from Fort Bliss, so he can't go on into the JAG, that he can't go into the command, that he can't say, look, I'm an officer of the court, I know the system, this is what I'm entitled to. And so, that's what happened. And Miss Kacherga El Paso Matters, K-Tip, participated in that with Mr. Poche. Okay. And it is, and we wrote, I want to be honest with you, we wrote Mr. Poche. He's a veteran, and we wanted to just give him a heads up so that he can come clean. He doesn't need to be part of this. He made himself part of this. I don't know why. I don't know what happened, but the Hart family are master manipulators, in my opinion, because we have piles and piles and piles of information, and you have the family still trying to protect James Hart. And I guess they don't see it. I guess they don't see it. They don't see that there is another way to live. And of course, we posted up in all of the allegations of the incest, of the child abuse, and those aren't my allegations. I want to make that very, very clear. I've never seen the incest, thank God, or the child abuse, or those aren't my, that is not my allegations. Those are Leilani Hart's allegations. And by the way, we have Leilani Hart's I guess it's her maiden name. And I don't know if I can say it properly. Um but those are Leilani Hart's, and I don't know what her real name is, to be honest with you. I'm putting out all these names so that the authorities, because they've asked us to bring them leads, okay? So the authorities can take these leads, and that they can, even if they get the glory, here we are doing all of this research, years now, giving it to them, and they just have to, announce it. They just have to, use their tools, use their devices and whatever, and put the icing on the cake and deliver it, serve it up, and and then they can get the glory for it. But that's okay, because our aim is to get Richard, right? Is to, where is Richard? What happened to Richard? That's our aim, is to find Richard and bring him home. We want his remains. We want his remains. They have done enough to him. Okay. I'm not going to stand by and let them um, get away with it, what they did to him, and for it to continue, for it to continue. When I have, so many people don't have the means, right? They don't have the time. The time is the big thing. I'm going to burn the midnight oil tonight. I, go till about 2:30 in the morning. And it is not that easy for someone that has a job, that has little children. How could they do this? Right? So I was going to try to do some things during the day, but there's too much research, and then there's life, there's spending time with the grandkids, and um, doing other things. So here we are burning the midnight oil every night. Um, and our aim is to get Richard back home. That's our aim. And so these many allegation, or not even allegation, these are charges of domestic abuse, charge of harassment, charge of harassment, charge of harassment. These are charges, 3-year restraining orders. And what does that show? That shows that they left a lot of trash. See, when you are a pollutant, okay, and they're a pollutant, and we have been subject to have to clean up after them because they have just harassed us and intimidated us and used asymmetric warfare tactics against us. And they have connections. And where do these connections come from? And the thing is that they themselves are not credible. See, that's where Miss Kucherga, I believe, should be held accountable. Because I gave her a heads up and she wasn't grateful for it. She didn't say thank you so much for the heads up. We're going to do some better research before we report this. She was angry. And so Leilani Hart and the scheme and the orchestrated scheme to interfere in the investigation of the whereabouts of our son and what happened to our son was really criminal, because with an easy search you can find a criminal history, not behind the judge. The judge is totally vetted, but behind Leilani. Behind Leilani. Okay? That's where the crime is. That's where the vetting was lax or non-existent. Non-existent vetting when it came to the Hart family. And the reason why I even bring this up is because the lawyer and KTEP, El Paso Matters, Ms. Kucherga, I believe James Hart, orchestrated this to obstruct justice in our son's case, to tamper with a witness. And we've proven now that they did not vet. And when it comes to a missing soldier that is presumed murdered, because behind the scenes there's all the chatter going on that he was murdered, right? There was all the chatter going on that he was murdered. And so Ms. Kucherga absolutely knows this. And so she needed to be extra careful, because we're talking about the murder of a Fort Bliss soldier. And that what she was doing was going to interfere in the process of justice, in due process. But she chose the obstruction side. She chose to not vet. She chose to not even care. It's kind of like the probable cause of the search by the Fugitive Apprehension Unit to our house in full body gear. It's kind of like that. There was no probable cause. There's no warrant, right? It was for show. It was for a different purpose. It was to intimidate. And who is behind that? We still haven't gotten to the bottom of that yet because justice is being obstructed even in that case. That's a whole nother case, isn't it? It's a case of our civil rights being violated by an, a search of our home by an assault unit without a warrant. And if there's no warrant, there's no probable cause. And I can tell you right now, because I was there and I had talked to them because we cooperated, I talked to them when they came into our house, and they had no probable cause. They had no probable cause to search our home. And so there was nothing there. They did not do their due diligence at KTEP, at El Paso Matters, and Ms. Kucherga, Angela Kucherga, did not do her due diligence. And so what was it then? Because she knew, because I talked to her, I'm a witness in that. I have it on record. She knew. Because her concern was never for Richard. Her concern was never for Richard. And so, and I can tell you that right now, 100%. Because where is her coverage? Where is her apologies? And they're supposed to be neutral because they get tax-free status, right? Where is the recanting? Where is the helping to get our key witness back on Fort Bliss? Where is the pressure of the press to pressure? And in a good way, we all, pressure is not a bad thing. Pressure makes us do things, right? But we need good pressure, not bad pressure. We need good influences, not bad influences. And where is the media helping us get justice for Richard? Helping Major General Eisenhower make the right decision. Because he can't make the decision on his own. He's a political creature. The stars are a political creation, political world. They're just all political creatures. And that's why it's so dangerous. But at the same time, Ms. Kucherga could help. El Paso Matters could help. KTEP could help. And we're ready to hear about Richard. You see? We're ready to hear about Richard. No matter what, I've always been ready to hear what they had to say. And, and this is when the smearing was going on, and I knew it was unjust. And I tried to stay as calm as I could. And Richard is, he's looking really good. He's looking far better than the Hart family because we have a domestic abuse charge. We have a harassment charge. We have another harassment charge. We have another harassment charge. And we have another domestic disturbance. And we have more. So the Hart family is the one that doesn't have credibility. And so I think Miss Katurga picked uh, Leilani, and she without even vetting her. And that's where the problem is. Why? Why? Okay. Why do they want to stop us from finding out what happened to Richard? What was he in? And they didn't even tell us he was a whistleblower. See, that was part of this. So, but right now we want to focus on Leilani. Why do we want to focus on Leilani? Because she's the one that was tampering. She's the one that went to the lawyer to get our key witness banned to obstruct the justice. And once the general, the major general, does the right thing, then we can then move forward. That's how important this is. That's how important this is. Then we can move forward to finding out what happened to Richard. So, this is a criminal family. This is a criminal family. Long. Oh, here's another one. Sorry. Oh, yeah. There's another one. This is one where the prosecutors requested certified copies. Wow. They sorry, I just caught that. Prosecutors requested certified copies. This that's important because that means they were going to go to trial. Yeah. Okay. So, I hope that I don't claim to know everything, but I do know this, that the Hart family has not earned our trust. At the very beginning of this, Dallas Hart, not the very beginning, I would say after the key witness made his complaints, and I contacted the coach of Dallas Hart for a character reference because I just wanted to know what he honestly thought about Dallas Hart. And Dallas Hart contacted me and was offended at that. So here we are, Team Find Richard Halliday, going through an absolute hellish time, being obstructed in every direction, Richard being smeared, and I don't want to smear everyone quickly, right? So I want to get a character reference, and he's not happy about that. There was no, I totally understand, ma'am. Thank you so much. I'll do anything to help. No, 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 no. That wasn't the response. So they have not earned our trust. And rightfully, they have not deserved us to believe what they have to say. For Dallas Hart to tell me that he doesn't know who Tavita Nusa was, sorry. Sorry. They have no credibility. And therefore, the more we find out about Delta Battery 143, which I talked about yesterday, and also Park University. Park University, it's very interesting because we want Richard's academic records because we have information that Richard was an intern with the CID. And we want information about that. And so I think that that's really important because we knew that he was taking classes. We knew that. But when he was in Qatar, um, he was just 180, the opposite. All of his aspirations were snuffed out, which I think is a failure of leadership. He had seen something during Qatar. He had seen something, maybe, yeah, it had to be Qatar. He absolutely saw how disgusting everything was, and he wanted to get out. And Rob told him, you got to keep your head down. And so when he got back, um, maybe he decided to resume. And because the enrollment is so low, um, they approved because when I heard through the intel that Richard was an intern for the CID through Park University, I thought, how can that happen? You need to be like a junior senior. But I checked on it and you don't. You don't. You just need a signature. And now we're getting information of someone that um, was with him. Okay, with was with him, and it leads us to wonder why we have an open records request. Why don't they expedite it? They absolutely know who we are. They could give us Richard's academic records, right? Under the FERPA emergency clause, they could give us his records. No problem. FERPA does, protect students' records, but when there is an emergency, like in Richard's case, there is a special clause that allows them to share the records with the next of kin. It would be totally legal. So that would be what a caring university for our service members would do. And at least they would acknowledge our requests. At least they would call us. Anna Whitehead could call us and she could say, I am so sorry. But they should have done that years ago. They've been keeping this to themselves because what was happening on Park University was not security. Okay? We know that Fort Bliss was operating outside of the law, and we know that there was all kinds of activities, I should say, or actions unbecoming of professors. Lots of pollution going on there. Lots of pollution. Lots of lots of actions by professors unbecoming a professor, and false allegations because it was so chaotic to innocent people, innocent professors, by Leilani Hart. Just trying to cause trouble, trying to harass. If you are putting in false allegations, you are a harasser. Isn't that what I just read? And I think in Texas, that would be a harasser. Well, I have here domestic abuse charge, domestic disturbance charge, a harassment charge, prosecutors requesting certified copies. I mean, it's just a consistency that leads to the same place. And when you are harassing the regional director of Park University, so much so with sexual harassment charges that are false that he has to get up and leave, he has to leave. He's just like, okay, so what does he know? He knows that he could not just stay there. Why? Because Fort Bliss is almost like Fort Hart. They've dug in. They've got Thomas Kane, which is DES. They've got the command. They had Clem Coward, somehow, some way. Roddick, somehow, some way. The CID, well, we know about the affair with Tavita Nusa. They have the VA. James Hart works there. Who was the contact in the VA, the point of contact for the CID in the investigation of our son? Because that is very important, because they have access to Richard's file and his health records. All of his records are, they have access to it. So all the leaking and all of that, the tampering of that Leilani Hart, we have witness of that, and even a CID and FBI complaint that they were saying they were in control of the CID. Well, were they in control of the CID because they were at the VA and they were tampering with Richard's file? I mean, in my mind, my questions about my son's file is, what were they doing? Because I know that they were trying to get him to look like he committed suicide. And so let me ask this question. Was tampering going on at the VA that was going in the CID that was feeding Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe wrong information, that is feeding Major General James Eisenhower wrong information? Because we know tampering was going on. We know it was totally insane. We know even the medical tampering was wrong. We know the allegations against him about being kind of like some Al Capone with funny money or whatever was absolutely absurd and a smear campaign. But what about the medical? What about the medical? Because we know that the medical was being manipulated. We know it. They were not successful. But we need to look at the forensic evidence. We need to have that investigation. And therefore, we need Major General Eisenhower to realize that he has maybe been wrongly briefed, and allow our key witness to come in and work with our key witness to find out what happened to Richard. And find out if the VA, because no other soldier or service member or service member's family wants their records tampered with, right? They don't want their loved ones' records tampered with. They don't want their own records tampered with at the VA. And they don't want it tampered with to, some, it seems, the allegations are that they were tampering with it and coaching to milk the system and get the disability benefits. But I'm saying, what about the opposite direction? To tamper, to hurt a person. So there needs to be an investigation, because we have the intel on who the point of contact was in the VA. Okay, we have that information. And so, but we would like, James Hart should have recused himself anyway. This is too close when his wife is a main suspect. Now he's a main suspect. And so here they have the CID under their control. That's what they were bragging. And, and we saw it, we lived it. That's why I can say this, because I talked to Soto so many hours and hours. And why was it hours? Because I was trying to plead with him that what he was doing was insane. And that it didn't matter what he was doing, because it was not productive in finding Richard. It was the opposite. It was the opposite. And the command was the same. They did, you know them by their fruit. And their fruit was, we don't want to find Richard. We are going to obstruct justice. We are going to obstruct this investigation. And I've been saying that from the beginning. They didn't call us. They didn't tell us our son was a whistleblower. They didn't even tell us who the FBI man was. We had to find that all out. They didn't tell us who Danae is. We had to find that out. They didn't tell us who Boleyn is. We had to find that out. And who all these, they didn't tell us that Clem Coward lost his command. They didn't tell us that Lieutenant Colonel Roddick lost his command. They didn't tell us what was going on in the JAG with Judge Robert Shook. And then when we found out and wanted an open records, they PCS'd Robert Shook. And I think, he was ready to move into that new house. I think it was like custom or semi-custom, at least semi-custom. Why is he having to PCS that? So, we have all this intel, and we have Thomas Kane that could give us surveillance footage, that could tell us what's going on at every gate, that could tell us what's going on with every guard at every gate, and much, much more. He would be the one in charge of vetting Jay Paulin too, but James Hart. And I don't mean to forget about Jay Paulin or Michael Ruggiero or all the others, okay? But right now, we need to move forward. Well, from the beginning, we need to move forward to find where Richard is, right? And then everything else, the whole house of cards will come tumbling down. Because we know who the lawyer is, and we know who the sister of the lawyer is, and we know who is connected with that sister. So, so we'll come back to that. Right now, it's Leilani, and how that is obstructing finding Richard, which should be an insult to every service member. Do service members want to live on Fort Bliss as Fort Hart and be harassed and tampered with and no justice? And their life just hell. I mean, they're shaking already. Not everyone gets a sweet deal to get a job in the VA. That's only for command sergeant majors, because absolutely Jerry Jakovitz knows a lot. He was the right-hand man for Clem Coward. He knows a lot. And he did a Faustian deal. I believe. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. And some people believe that you got to do what's right for the family. Well, let me tell you, letting this criminal syndicate grow like this and hurt so many, not just Richard, but so many, is not helping your family at all. It's not helping our country. No. Because look at these next allegations by Leilani Hart and others, not me. See, and this is where, Dallas came on and he's like, "What are you saying? This is not what I'm saying. This is public information. Every one of these police reports on domestic abuse, domestic disturbance, harassment, 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 harassment. Oh, the prosecutors want certified copies. That's all public information. And it shows a consistent pattern of harassment. So it makes me more legit when I say we've been harassed. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We've been harassed. Believe you me, we've been harassed. We've been intimidated. All right. And in many different ways. In many different ways. So this is a pattern of harassment. And why would they want to harass us? Right? That's the good question. And what was Richard? It goes to, well, Richard was exposing something and they don't want you to find out what's in the CPS complaints. They don't want you to find out what he was complaining about, the CID complaints, and who might have complained about him. They don't want you to find out what they were complaining about because they were harassing him. And the smear campaign that was on him was very similar to the zeitgeist, the spirit of the false allegations against so many of the professors at Park University. And Park University didn't do anything about it. They haven't answered us. So if they haven't answered us, that means they never reported the false allegations, attacks against their own faculty. That they were allowing an atmosphere and an environment that was dangerous to our service members on their campus. So if they're going to allow it there, and of course, Thomas Kane worked there, okay? And he's in charge of security of Fort Bliss. No wonder the barracks were marketplaces for illegal drugs, hell for the likes of Asia Graham and many others because she was raped, and then she was bullied, then she was harassed by putting a rapist 2 doors down from her, right? And whose bright idea was it anyway in these so smart, seasoned leaders that they would make our barracks co-ed? Co-ed, you would think 50-50. No. At best, it's 9-1. 9 young males to 1 young female. Okay? Whose bright idea? They are just breeding sexual harassment. They are breeding harassment then. And sexual assault. So this is the atmosphere, the environment that Richard found himself in. And I will tell you, that's not where he came from. He came from a secure and safe home. A beautiful home. A beautiful family. And the harassers don't want you to believe that. But, we have evidence. We have evidence that in 3 years, our family has been very restrained under immense pressure to want to fight back. They have been absolutely gracious under the immense pressure to want to give these harassers, these vile, vulgar harassers, a piece of their mind. But you see, Team Find Richard Halliday knows that when you are a child of the devil, and y'all, when you are that vile and vulgar to children, multiple members of the family, this is Leilani Hart, multiple members of the family at one time gang banging a 7-year-old in her master bedroom. These are Satan's children. Okay? These are, I always say up to no good. Up to no good. Liars, harassers, assaulters. Disgusting. Now, that's her allegation. Just to have an allegation like that about your own family members in your own home, about your own friend's child, that you allowed to stay there with these monsters. Is also criminal. It's also criminal. And Miss Kercherga made Leilani Hart the lead actress in a political hit job against a key witness to obstruct justice for a missing soldier, presumed murdered. And he was presumed murdered then. It was all over. All the little talk was all over. She knows. She has contacts. Yeah, that happened. Okay, so how, one of the questions that has been posed to me over and over and over again, and to Rob too, is how could so many people with $150,000 right there for anyone that has information leading to finding Richard, credible information to find Richard. This is, it's like, how could they not come forward? Because there's a lot of them, y'all. How could the intimidation or the bribe or whatever they had, well, there is the spheres of government. And we're not really, taught this. I wasn't taught this until a Bible study. But, we're supposed to have the separation of church and state. So what does that mean? It doesn't make sense to us, really, unless you do this Bible study. Because the civil government, what we know as Washington, D.C., led by Washington, D.C., or, the likes of Governor Abbott or whatever, they shouldn't be that big. they should be part of spheres of government. They shouldn't stick their nose into, the business world. They shouldn't have all these regulations and all of that. Okay? Because they just corrupt it. They just use it for their own gain. That's why so many in Washington, D.C. go there, not having too much money. And when they leave, they're, millionaires or billionaires, right? So the church is also supposed to be in a sphere, right? God limits law to a medium-sized book that anyone can read and understand the case laws therein. Very easy. And those laws, most of them don't have any kind of penalty. Very few have penalties. So, it's very limited. The Ten Commandments are very limited, right? And the case laws are very limited. You build a balcony, you put up a railing, or you're liable, for example, right? You build a staircase, you put a railing. If someone gets hurt because you didn't put a railing up, you're liable. If you dig a hole in the middle of the road and someone comes and gets hurt, or their animal gets hurt because you did not mark that there's a hole there, to beware, to yield, to be careful, then you're liable. That's why our country, Christian countries, have that. And when you go to other countries, they don't have that because of biblical case law. And then you have spheres at your school, right? You have a sphere of government in your home. And that's why James Hart will be liable for the disaster in his home. Because God makes him accountable as the head of the house. And I know a lot of women have a hard time with that, but when you understand it fully, why God says women submit to men, this submission means to the responsibility of the liability. And that's why we're supposed to help, because he is going to have to answer to God more so than Leilani. And that's the truth. And that's not my decision. That was God's decision. Men are more liable. Judges are more liable. Doctors are more liable. Ministers, like being a congressman or a representative, they're more liable, being it a woman or a man. And if you are a widow, you're the head of the household, you're liable. So it's not always men. So that's the government of the house. And then you have government in, thinking school, home, civil, church, business. I think there's like 7 of them, and I'm missing a couple. But you get the point. There's supposed to be checks and balances. There's not supposed to be one large creature that rules them all, right? It doesn't work like that, because we need oversight, and we need to check each other, and we need restraints, and we also need the media to call out and force our authorities to really do the right thing. And sometimes the community, the social, that's what I wanted to talk about, the social pressure. And that's what's on Fort Bliss. There's a lot of social pressure because of the jobs, because of, how there's a distortion of government. And so people have even more pressure to go along and lockstep and march instead of just, establishing justice. And so so many people went along with this, is because of the corruption, because of the collusion, because of social pressure. Because if so and so is up to get their medical disability and I know you and you might say something and then that might hinder me getting my job or my disability or whatever, that's social pressure. Then I'm not going to do something to hurt you, right? They use that with us during COVID. Oh, you can't do that because, or you have to do this because you care about other people, right? That's social pressure. They use that as asymmetric warfare tactic. And so with Richard, there is so much social pressure that it was very social pressure and even job pressure. Retaliation. We're going to retaliate against you. Don't you know there was that smear on him? So, there's these people out there that don't understand leave no soldier behind. They don't understand that. And they don't understand that MPs need to go and look for every soldier. There's not a choice there. But social pressure and job pressure and bad leadership has distorted the duties of our agencies. And that was very clear. And so one example of that, and these are not my allegations, these are Leilani's allegations and other allegations that I wanted to bring up with James Hart, is that there was tampering and fraudulent activities with his job, by him in his job, and with friends with benefits. Okay? And we have evidence of that. And so we have put in a criminal complaint about the harassment, but we've added a complaint to the VA because if service members' VA records are being tampered with and forged, and Social Security number forged without the soldiers being there, and Social Security numbers being manipulated and all this stuff. And we know Richard's Social Security number has been manipulated or used. Then this really needs some investigation. And it just shows you it's not just harassment, but there's fraud. There's fraud and there is felony crimes at so many levels. And there's a history of felony crimes. Okay? And if there's felony crimes here, what else was happening? That's true too, right? What else is alleged that is true too? So what I'm looking at right now is Facebook, because I did put on the media alert that clarifies what I was just talking about in the VA, James Hart's exploitation of the VA system, and how that interfered and interferes now with Richard Halliday's case. So because these things all connect with Richard's case, that's why I'm mentioning them. Okay, so if there's any questions, we have Danielle Dixon, Anicia Culture. Yeah, and we have some names, and we're making sure before we release the names, like the Friends with Benefits and this Delta Battery 143, that really is another evidence because we have on record evidence that Dallas was in Delta Battery 143, but now we have some new information, and it is a little bit shocking. I'm trying to wrap my head around it all. Rob's trying to, Team Find Richard Halliday, we're trying to figure out what this to whom it may concern letter means on March 7th, 2020. So that date is even like what? Because it was right after Richard was in the hospital from the 2nd to the 5th. And we know that that hospital was because of self-defense. That's what we believe. It was a self-defense injury. And why did Leilani Hart think it necessary to have it to whom it may concern? And the one that wrote it is really, really to whom I have concern about. And so, and it doesn't seem to be him. Uh, what Before I say anything, I have to really look into it more, and trying to wrap my head around. But it seems that it involves the VA also, and fraud at the VA. Okay, fraud at the VA, Delta Battery 143, Richard's self-defense injury. It seems to involve that, and a person that our intel says was at the Van Buren address on the night that Richard met his demise. So that is, and I'm supposed to stay calm in all this, y'all. Calm and cool and collect, because I might hurt Dallas's feelings, or James Hart's feelings, or Leilani Hart's. Oh, I'm picking on them. No, no, no. They have picked on their own self. Okay? I never have known them. I didn't know them when they were harassing other people and other people were calling the police on them. That 3-year restraint orders. They're picking on themselves. And these pity parties, that is another indication of how self-absorbed they are. Absolutely self-absorbed, and thinking it's okay to commit these felony crimes and not be held accountable for it. So, no, I'm not the one that hurt their feelings, or, whatever, leave my daddy alone. No, you needed to go to the El Paso Police Department and say, my daddy needs to leave me alone. Because there is a better world. There is a better world. There's a better life. Life is not all about money, okay? And this is what really concerns me, is that our children are being groomed, that anything goes if you can make a buck out of it. No, you can't poison our soldiers. You can't make the barracks a marketplace for illegal drugs. And, of course, they've gotten away with it for a long time, but I'm sick of it. I didn't know it was like that for a long time. Why have we put up for so long all of these suicides, all of these rapes, all of these sexual harassment, all of these, this control of a criminal syndicate. And then a guy like Richard comes in and says, hey, wait a minute. I thought this was a U.S. Army. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up to live in a marketplace for illegal drugs. I didn't sign up to be surrounded by illegal guns. I didn't sign up to be afraid at night, to be raped, to be harassed, to be beat up, to be intimidated. I didn't sign up for this. I'm a tough guy, but I didn't sign up to watch 14-year-olds living in the barracks being pimped out and raped all night long. I don't know. I didn't sign up for Park University to be part of this exploitation. And, Leilani Hart's like, what? What do you mean? This is our installation, the Hart installation. I control the CID. I control the JAG. I control the command. I control the VA. And if you guys don't let me control it, I'm going to put in harassment and false allegations. And I'm going to get really upset at my husband. It's a control game, isn't it? And I've invited her on here to explain herself for what, over a year? More than that. No, about a year. And, I'm not a micromanager like that. I don't want power like that, but I do want my son's remains. I want to know what happened to my son, and I want accountability, and I want justice for Richard. And, I was always taught you make the world a better place, not a hellhole for self-aggrandizement. So you can have, a few wives and whatever. That is a pollutant. Because the world is too beautiful. It's just too beautiful to ruin like that. And God's children are not for sale. God's children are not for sale. And they're not to, you can't get away with what they did to Richard. So, all right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on, and thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Anicia. Pity party of manipulation. Oh, yeah. That's exactly what the pity party was. Oh, poor them. No. Go ahead and look at, I think I might release these numbers. Go look. They're public. Go look at all of the police reports. Okay? And then go and say a prayer and read through Leilani Hart's sworn affidavit, because she had it notarized. And then I have another information here where this is October. She's like, I put in that CID complaint. Okay. And she reveals more. And I haven't even posted that up. So, yeah. No, this is a consistent unlawful, obstruction of justice, criminal complaints, uh, felony crimes committed, felony crimes. Um, and so, yeah, I hope that Major General Eisenhower does the right thing. And if you're listening, you have some time, write Major General Eisenhower to do the right thing. Okay. And so thank you so much and pray for tomorrow. You know, tomorrow, well, it's today already. We're burning the midnight oil. Pray because I just have this feeling, you know, I know it's been a year since my dad passed away, maybe. Um, I just have this feeling something is going to break because we just have too much. We have too much. And I don't think that service members want to chance their VA records being unlawfully accessed and manipulated and tampered with, and their social security numbers and whatever, whatever. So thank you, everyone. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing.